Well, this giant ridge that's been causing all of the heat is starting to collapse. So it's the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, for some areas. In the video today, we're going to look at the long-range outlook. We're going to show you what's ahead, and we're going to start in the upper levels with the 500 millibar chart. So we've seen this hot weather from the Great Lakes into the Northeast. Again, changes are starting to happen. Notice how this ridge, this upper level trough, this upper level ridge rather, starting to weaken. You don't see the high heights anymore as the atmosphere starts to cool. That also means that there'll be some cooler air aloft, which will lead to more thunderstorm activity across parts of the eastern United States. Across the west, we're going to start to heat up here, especially across the Great Basin into the southwest, heading into Saturday and Sunday with some really warm weather. And then overall, though, I mean, it's summer. It's going to feel hot. Your jet stream pretty far to the north, so I think we stay active along the U.S.-Canadian border through Sunday into Monday. And this right here is something to watch, I think, as we head toward really the first part of the week, possibly into Sunday for the upper Midwest, swinging into the Great Lakes. This could bring some severe thunderstorms Sunday into Monday, and then maybe into Tuesday into parts of the Northeast. We'll have to see. It may actually outpace the maximum heating there on Tuesday. All right, across the west, again, a bit of a ridge building here. Temperature is pretty warm across the country, but what we don't see is this huge death ridge, so to speak, across the eastern United States anymore. So much cooler next week as we head toward the 4th of July holiday weekend. Although, if you want to know where it's going to get hot, some of the models, including the GFS, try to really heat things up across the Pacific Northwest and in western Canada heading into the 4th, 5th, and 6th of July. Look at this. I want to show you dew points. I'm going to put it into motion really quick. What's not going to change over the next several days? I mean, some of you will see changes, but look at these dew points in the moisture. It's not going anywhere, so it's going to continue to feel sticky. It's going to feel sticky today, too, especially across the south and up and down the eastern seaboard. Again, from Trenton, New York City, all the way down to Philadelphia, heat indices 100, 105. Again, back to St. Louis, up towards Indianapolis, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, northern Mississippi, heat indices close to 105 again today. The severe weather risk, this is a look at the Storm Prediction Center's map. Again, across parts of the upper I guess really we're talking about the Central Plains. From Nebraska into Iowa, that's the highest risk, but there could be a few storms into the upper Midwest and then back here toward the Rockies. And then we're also looking into the southeastern United States. There could be some strong storms into the Carolinas, down into Georgia, even into Florida, and with a few storms possible also into the mid-Atlantic. The main risk would be damaging winds. A few tornadoes possible across Iowa and Nebraska today. Look at the coverage increasing across the southeast today. We're going to take a quick look at the infrared simulated here across the HRRR. Once we head into the afternoon with cooler air aloft relative to what we've seen lately. And you're also going to still get pretty hot at the surface, but in the upper levels, not quite as warm, so that cap starts to go away. The HRRR is trying to develop these storms, and check out the motion, northeast to southwest, rotating around our upper ridge here. So that could push storms from the Carolinas all the way down through Georgia toward the Gulf Coast late tonight, and these could line up and contain some damaging winds. So again, that severe risk. And look at the coverage expected heading into Thursday. A lot more thunderstorm activity, more cloud cover too, and that likely means a little bit cooler temperatures and maybe some relief to that heat by the end of the day. Across the central United States, along the Gulf Coast, some heavy rain possible across Texas as we see these storms here, and then big storms up across parts of Nebraska. Those move east heading into Thursday. Now we're talking about Iowa, possibly as far east as Illinois, as far south as Missouri. Let's look at the future radar. We'll take it hour by hour through the day today. Showers and storms going across the Dakotas, lifting north into Minnesota today, heading into the afternoon. These storms could start to really pulse up from Nebraska into Iowa too. Again, strong damaging winds, hail, and a few isolated tornadoes possible out of these, with some decent wind shear across Iowa and Nebraska. And there could also be some pretty large hail too, with some colder air aloft, especially if those storms can get really tall and tap into that. And these storms head east heading into Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. So watch out here from the Twin Cities down towards Des Moines and then moving east throughout the evening hours. And here's a look at your high temperatures today. Cooler across the Dakotas, back into the 60s, into some of the higher elevations and 70s across western Dakota anyway. All right, western and North Dakota, that is. To the south we go across Texas. Quite a bit of heavy rain across the Gulf Coast here through the morning hours. And then otherwise, not a lot going on across Oklahoma. Another hot day. Arkansas, Missouri, up into Kansas. We could see a few showers developing late tonight, and then those will blossom into some thunderstorms heading into tomorrow afternoon. Some of these could get strong here into western Oklahoma, North Texas, and now more storms. We've talked about that moving east as our front pushes off to the south and east. And here's a look at your high temperatures today. Into the 90s. I want to let this go out in time a little bit. These are touch numbers from the National Weather Service. So by Thursday, we're looking at highs. Look at that, back into the mid-90s up here into Kansas. We could get close to 100 as we move toward Friday. And then some cooler weather on the way by Monday. These would be your highs back into the upper 80s and low 90s. We're staying hot, though, across the south. Not a lot of changes here. Let's move toward the Great Lakes. We've been baking here, but not nearly as hot, though, today, heading into Thursday and Friday. North of our front, it's going to be a little bit cooler. Actually, your front's probably more like this, but that front is really making a difference. Cooler temperatures in the 70s versus the 90s in some cases, very close to 100. And look at the rain moving along it, too. Multiple chances of showers and storms from Michigan east into Pennsylvania, New York, and more storms moving back into Wisconsin. We talked about that heading into Thursday, and those will move into Michigan, I think, Thursday night into early Friday with some heavy rain, some big downpours, too. Look at your high temperatures today. Again, much cooler across Wisconsin and at least the northern part of Michigan. Southern Michigan, once you get closer to Ohio and Indiana, we're back into the 90s. We say goodbye to the heat, at least into the northeast. We'll look at that closer in a second, but the 90s hold on. And look at overall these numbers, though, across parts of the Ohio Valley and the Appalachians. We go from the upper 90s, we're back close to 90. So while there are going to be some changes, it's not going to be drastic heading into the weekend. But by Monday, highs back into the 80s from Chicago, Indianapolis, back to St. Louis, all the way over to Charleston, West Virginia. So much cooler in this part of the country. It's not going to cool off a lot across the south. It's summer. It's going to be hot here. The only relief will be these showers and storms. Some of these could contain some gusty winds and maybe some hail. These will drop south and could form into, again, a decent cluster of storms. I'm going to back this up. Once we head through the evening hours, these could start to get a little more organized across North and South Carolina. And then through the overnight, persist through Georgia into North Florida and then dropping into the Gulf Coast states right along the Gulf Coast here. So from the Panhandle, Florida, maybe as far as southern Mississippi and Alabama, some storms here. And then this area explodes again heading into Thursday with more showers and storms driven by the afternoon heating, which is going to be hot. Here's your high temperatures today from the Piedmont down to the coastal plain. It is going to be baking. Triple-digit heat. These are touched high temperatures forecasted from the National Weather Service, close to 100 near Charlotte again today, up to Raleigh. Highs on Thursday, a little bit cooler. We're up into the 90s, close to 95, 90 towards Charlotte, up towards Greensboro. Well, really, I think the official forecast is 93 for Charlotte, but up towards Richmond, still 92. Some cooler weather on the way, though, at least the further north and east you go, heading into Thursday. But look, these numbers even up here start to bounce back, and we'll look at that closer right now. Showers and storms expected today across the mid-Atlantic from Pennsylvania down into Maryland. Heading into this afternoon, some of those could get strong, and then things calm down late tonight. Thursday, more showers and storms riding in from the northwest. Some of these could get intense too again into the afternoon and evening hours. Showery, a little bit cooler on the north side of the front here from southern New England back into upstate New York as the rain persists. Highs today are going to be hot across southern New England, though. Hartford, Providence, into the 90s again today. Even Boston, very close to that. But look at the difference a day makes. Heading into Thursday, we drop back, with highs. I had to look at this a couple of times. Back into this upper 60s and low 70s. Even New York City, highs close to 73, 74. We may push to get to 70 tomorrow for Hartford, and then we start to slowly warm up heading into the weekend. To the west we go. The Great Basin is hot and dry. Not a lot of changes here, but there could be quite a few storms firing, though, from New Mexico along the Front Range, and even some storms up here into parts of southern Canada, into parts of Idaho. Not a lot of action, though, but that picks up and heads east as we head into Friday across parts of Montana, across the Pacific Northwest, a few showers. Other than that, not a lot of precipitation across the west. Look at these highs across the southwest. In the deserts, we're hot. Phoenix close to 100 again today. Up towards Flagstaff, a little cooler, but Watch this trend over the next couple of days. These are forecasted highs pushing 110 to 115 across the deserts by the time we get to Monday, and even places like Boise pushing 100, Salt Lake City well into the 90s. 97 is the forecast high. So we are getting hot across the mountains and even into the Pacific Northwest. Hot today across eastern Oregon, also eastern Washington, and it's going to get even hotter as we head into the weekend. Triple-digit heat forecast. These are not model numbers for eastern Washington heading into Monday. All right, see you next time.